No, you've been busy, huh?
Yeah, yeah, it has been. Although it gets a little bit quieter through August, and then I'm busy again most of September. So, but yeah, it's all good.
I, s-
Everything good.
you sound really echoey today. I don't
Oh,
know
do I?
why.
Am I on the wrong? Maybe I'm on the wrong microphone. Let me just check. Maybe I'm coming through. Ah, it says input device default. It should be this. Does that sound clearer?
Yeah, that sounds better.
Okay, cool. Yeah, for
Yeah.
some reason, I think it was probably trying to come through a webcam or something like that. And now you
No,
should. If I if
that's
I tap
normal.
this, can you hear it? Hang on, I'm going to tap the microphone.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
hear it.
cool. Okay, good stuff. So yeah, I'm glad we're at Okayama because this is a track that. So you said you haven't really done this one before, but
No, I haven't. In fact, these are my first laps. I just kind of went out while you were spinning around, and I just kind of drove it to see where the turns are.
so
I
this
didn't even know.
kind of I'm the opposite than to you here because this is a track I use all the time because it's actually quite often used in the rookie series. So when I've
Uh,
got new drivers that I'm working with, we come here loads. So not normally in the Formula 3 car, we're normally in stuff that's much slower than this. So it's been quite nice doing some laps in this car because it's just
right.
because the track is just so flowing and nice. So anyway, this is I think it was the 1994 Pacific Grand Prix circuit. So it was a
Okay.
Formula One track, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it suits these cars well. So I'm quite familiar with it. I imagine most of our first session or so, you're going to be just learning the way around. So don't
Sadly.
worry too much about being perfect. I'll tell you what, just before you drive, since you don't know the track, I'll just sit you on board me, and I'll just run you through what I'm doing corner by corner, so you've got a bit of a heads up before you start. So this is after. So this is one, two, three. This is lap 5. So that you can see from my
Okay.
times, the tyres come on around about lap 3. You see, it's quite a significant difference between lap 2
Hmm.
and lap 3 because it's a relatively
Hmm.
short track. So, but really, from lap 4 onwards, you should be able to do like the best possible times,
Okay.
fuel load aside. But tyres are nearly fully ready on lap 3, and they're definitely fully ready lap 4, 5, 6, etc. So this is lap 5 that you're about to
Can I ask
see.
you just a
Go on.
administrative question then?
Yeah, of course.
In terms of racing here, both qualifying and race course racing would be lap 3, you're ready to go. Lap 3, lap 4.
Yeah.
Qualifying laps, are you sort of having to hang back a little bit
all
because your
all you
tires?
can do is drive to the limit that the tires will give you, and
Hmm.
so I think the main thing to bear in mind is don't expect it to be better than it's going to be. You know, just
Okay.
accept it's the same for everyone. Everyone's going to be struggling with tire temperature, and you know you can see here like that 41 was that actually that's an outlap, isn't it? Yeah, so that's an outlap. So first flying lap, second flying lap here. So you can see
Hmm.
I'm within 3/10 of my best on the second flyer, but what it really means is you can't afford to mess up your second quali lap because it's
Yeah.
going to be significantly quicker than the first. So just get a
Yeah.
banker in, but don't expect it. Don't like ask too much on the first qualifying lap because if you get an off
Hmm.
track, then you've got even more pressure for your second one, and you can't
Yeah.
really afford it. So, but this is the fifth lap you're about to see. So, you know, this is when everything's nice and warm.
One other question, real
Go on.
quick, before we get
Yeah,
started.
go for it.
So I drove at I, what was ah Manicor,
Yep.
and I knew that track from the past. So I thought, I didn't have much time to practice. So I just went and thought, okay, I'll race a couple of times there because I had a few minutes. And I noticed that there were no splits, so that there were like 11 people registered, which is the lowest I've ever seen
Oh wow. Okay.
for an F3 race. And I wondered if there's some reason why is
Um,
F3 becoming less popular
I
now,
I think
or
yeah, I think probably it's probably a case that more and more people are doing the newer cars like the Super Formula Lights. I think Super Formula Lights is like kind of replacing F3 because it's a bit more like a modern F3 car.
uh,
It's effectively the equivalent of like the FIA Formula 3 car now. Whereas the Dallara that we're using here is like it's a bit old hat. I love it to bits, but it hasn't been used for probably 10 years in international motorsport now. So I think that might be why people are moving across.
Do you like the other car better?
Yeah, the Super Formula Lights car is really good. It is really good. So maybe between this week and next week, we could give that a try. Like, I haven't driven it in a while, but I definitely have done quite a few laps in the last year in it. I think it's just like a slightly faster, slightly more modern feeling version of this car.
Right. I raced, I think, twice. No, maybe 3 times, but one time I made a huge mistake and I creamed somebody from behind. They braked harder than I was expecting, and I was kind of setting up a pass, not at that corner, but I was trying to get close through the corner.
Yeah.
And I just plowed into him because he just braked harder than I expected. And then the other 2 races, one of them went okay. I think I finished 5th or something like that, but the people ahead of me were all in the 3,000s.
Yeah, okay.
For iRacing points, so
you'll definitely find a higher participation level in the Super Formula Lights as an example. So maybe try it and see whether you like it, because mostly this is about enjoying doing the driving.
The car, yeah.
And if you enjoy it and there's a lot of people to race, then that's great. So, but yeah, I think the Formula 3 car is gradually tailing off, unfortunately.
Okay. All right.
But for today, we can at least do it here today.
Yeah, sure.
So let me just run you through how I'm approaching this lap, just so you've got an idea roughly. But essentially, there's quite a lot of corners where you're relying on your downforce here. So turn 1 is one of them. You're very used to this car anyway, so you know what I'm talking about. It's basically a relatively late but not very hard brake. You see on my brake pedal here, I'm only getting up to like 40% pressure because I don't want to get the car stopped too soon. I actually do want to carry a lot of speed in, and I want to be very balanced on the way through. And you're getting back on the gas kind of at the apex here, or just past it. That's where I'm just starting to get on. And then turn 2 is this really fast sweeper, but it's not full throttle. You see I'm doing like a little tiny trail brake and going down to 50 or 40% throttle, even less if needed. But you just have to balance it. It's just a typical high-speed corner where you've nearly got enough downforce to just keep it pinned, but you don't quite, so you have to just balance it. Then you've got probably the toughest corner on the track, or one of the most technical, because it's this long, slightly banked hairpin that cuts back on itself, and it's very easy to run too wide too soon. So a lot of people will get on the gas hard here and go wide out here to like where these sandbags are on the cliff. But then you just travel way too far. So the compromise here is to hit the apex, but then be patient enough. You see, I'm not on the gas at all here. Be patient enough to keep the car tight and then get on the gas. So you actually come off the corner quite narrow, like this. So you're not letting it run wide too early, if that makes sense.
That reminds me a little bit of the turn 1 at Mugello.
Yes, it is. It is very much like that. Yeah, if you go where the car wants to go, you'll be carrying more speed at that point, but you're just traveling so much further, it's not worth it. So the short distance is the best compromise there. Then you've got this massive straight, which I won't bore you with, and then a typical hairpin. Now there's actually 3 hairpins on this track. There's this one, and then there's the 2 slightly later on. I've tried them all in first gear and second gear, and I've found that I'm quicker by a few tenths overall when I do them in the higher gear, but that only really works when the tyres are nice and warm, because then you can carry enough speed to use the higher gear. So second gear is what I would advise for each of these, and if you find it's pushing on in the middle of the corner, stay off the gas longer to let it rotate more, or even touch the brakes to let it rotate. What a lot of people do, if they go through in second, they'll get to here and then they'll run wide because they're just letting it push on. But you see, again, I've got no pedal input at all at this point to try and keep the car tight. And then when I'm leaving the corner, then smoothly getting on the gas. And then second gear works well. But you're also working with the banking. You see how it's like slightly banked in. So you just want to really get to the inside and use that. And then we've got 2 90-degree lefts where you just basically have to turn in quite early for the first one. So I'll go to the outside view so it makes it more obvious. But yeah, I don't want to go fast forward. There we go. So we turn in pretty early so you can really maximise the curb and also maximise the exit curve. See, I basically had no more I could use on the inside and no more on the outside, and it really makes that section significantly faster. And then The next 90 left is just like a flow, very, very gentle brake. You see it's like if I go on slow motion, it's like a little teeny brake just to keep the nose in, and then you're just feeling and balancing on the way out. And you've got the final couple of hairpins, again, second gear and super tight. They're not banked like the other one, so we'll understeer quite a lot more here. And that's a relatively late apex for the second one. See, it's quite far around.
Yeah.
But it seemed to gain me a bit of time for that one. And the reason that's a late apex is because the part that comes after it is a high speed right. It's a flat out right-hander. So you get more benefit. The first of those two, of this pair of hairpins, you see it's quite an early apex. And that's because there's a no straight afterwards. You know, you're immediately into the next corner. So that's why you don't bother sacrificing the mid corner. Whereas with this one, it's worth sacrificing the middle to get a really good exit. So that seemed to work well. Then you've got this full throttle right-hander. I think this is probably full throttle on the second lap. It might be full. It might be all right on the first lap because it's near the end of the lap, so your tyres have some temperature. But on a flying lap, it's definitely flat out. Now, I've done a couple of things here. I've tried running my tyres over the inside curb. In some cars, like the Formula Ford or the MX-5, you cut this right up to the yellow line. But in this car, I find you beach yourself a little bit and then you understeer wide on the exit. So just use loads of curb, but probably don't go past the curb. But it's full throttle, and then it's just down one gear for a nice, smooth, high-speed final corner. And again, you can use this exit curb, but if you go all the way out, it does beach itself a little bit. But don't be afraid to... It doesn't slow you down that much. It's just, I think the ideal is something like this, where most of the car is still on the red and white curb. And that's it. That's the lap. There we go.
Lap. Easy
peasy.
Huh?
Just do that, Robert.
Yeah, okay.
Just do exactly that.
Yeah,
Then you're
I'll
fine.
do that.
Okay,
Fair
let's
enough.
jump on board with you. So, I said that took me like 5 laps to get up to temperature. Should we do like 7 or 8 laps so you've got enough time to do several laps
Sure.
at temperature? Because the first 2 are kind of a write-off anyway.
Okay.
Right, let's do it. I am watching on board, and I'm just going to mute myself so you don't hear me breathing, but you can talk to me still, and I can always unmute.
All right.
And obviously, I'll always interject if there's something I think you can change for the next lap.
Whoa. A little too late.
To be honest, on the first lap, it really is like your tyres are made of stone. So
Yeah.
don't worry too much. I mean, you'll get better at maximising that first lap, obviously, because you've just not been in this car for a while. But yeah, it's so different around this track in particular after a couple of laps. It's like you're driving a different car. Your line into there was actually good. It's just you've got no front grip yet.
Yeah. Still don't have tire temperature.
Yep, so all I'd say is turn 1, just focus on a quick exit rather than a super quick entry. You can just be a little bit more cautious on the entry speed, and you will definitely benefit on that exit. Even when the tyres are warm, it's better to not pile in too fast. Nice line through there. Really good. You're picking up the track quickly, considering you've not really done many laps. You are getting to grips with it well.
Oh.
Okay, this is looking a little better. I still think you're probably a little bit faster than me into turn 1 there.
Too much brake. I don't have that down very well, do I?
That's okay. You'll get used to how early you need to get the car over to the right-hand side before the double left. That's just a little bit of circuit familiarity. But you're doing well. So I would just enter turn 1 very slightly slower. So just a little bit more brake pressure before you get to the apex.
Okay.
Because it looks like the front's still washing out. And if it's washing out on this lap, that's probably just because we're going a bit too quick. You'll then be able to be really accurate with your line and how early you get on the gas. Nice, very accurate that time. So let's do, say, 3 more laps, including this one.
Too much.
The way you hooked it round the hairpin was great there. Like really, really well. You really stuck to the inside.
Are you going up to 6th gear?
Yeah, just before the
There.
braking zone almost. Yeah. Nice. Let's just do one more. Yeah, just a little kiss of the grass, and then that sent you out to the gravel. Let's do one more, and then we'll stop for a little break.
Sorry.
That's all right. Let's do no more. Let's stop there, because this one won't be very good.
I looked down at my gears to see where I was. I wasn't sure.
What's good is you still did that 125.9, even with a bit of a messed up final section. So that's good. So let's get your data loaded up. That's it. Works out what you're doing.
I might have to load. I forgot to go onto the website.
As long as it's running in the background, it should work.
It should be, but
it says that you're live on circuit, so it does know.
Are you getting? Oh, I need to get out of the car.
Yeah, that'll be it. That's it. Just give it a moment to update. You really picked the track up well there. So we're going to do a bit of a traditional, just digging into the nuts and bolts of like physically what you need to do differently. You know, positioning, exactly where you get on the gas, all like the normal standard stuff. There's no magic here. It's quite a straightforward circuit, and you just have to place the car in certain places and get on the gas at certain times. So it's it'll be quite simple once we get this data up. Here we go. So let's take your last lap there. No, I don't want to add it to an analysis from 2 months ago. I want to add it to my lap. There we go. This one. Right, cool. So can you see my screen okay there?
Hold on. For some reason, I can't get my Discord up. Okay, there we are.
I'm just having a brief glance to see if I can see anything obvious. Okay. Yeah, okay, so there's a few things that we can go to straight away, but let's just go through a complete lap. So, turn 1, you did very, very well on your fast lap there, because you were only 600ths down by the time you turned into turn 2. If anything, you went through the middle of the corner quicker than me. You just had a slightly different compromise. You were slightly slower on the approach, slightly quicker in the middle, slightly slower on the exit. But there's very little in it, so don't try and change it too much. The only thing I would say is I'm actually using 1 gear lower than you. So you're going in 4th, and I'm going through in 3rd. I don't think there's a big difference. So it clearly worked for you because 600ths is basically nothing, between those two corners. It's only 5 and a bit actually.
Right.
So that's good. So that's not where you're losing. And then let's look at your turn 2. Looks like your mid-corner speed is higher than mine. In fact, you've pulled back 100th through turn 2. So turn 1 and turn 2, we don't really need to worry too much about. Look at that. Look at your mid-corner speed there. You're 5k quicker than I went on my lap. And that's because I tried to go in too quick. Got a little bit sideways. You can see the opposite lock down here on the steering trace. And you've just pulled through. So really good. So that's a great start. So we can now forget like a quarter of the track. I'm just going to write this in here.
If I can just repeat it.
Yeah, if you can do that every lap, that's amazing. I'm just going to make a title for this. Okayama F3. So we've got yours saved, and let's add you to this so you can see it as well. There we go. Cool. Right, done. So those two are fine. Turn 3, however, I know this is technically a turn, but the third proper corner, that's where there's clearly like quite a big difference. And there, that section from the braking point until the braking point of the next corner is a whole second. So this is definitely worth looking at. So what we're doing differently, you're going down an additional gear. So I'm staying in 3rd through there. So that's definitely one thing. Let's go into the detail of that corner. So your braking trace is excellent, very good shape. Your braking trace is the trace of someone who is used to driving Formula 3 cars. You're used to using the downforce and bleeding off the brakes at the right point. So that's all good. All you can do differently is brake slightly later and make your peak slightly less. Because you're going down to 3rd gear, you're expecting... you're going down to 2nd gear, and I'm staying in 3rd. It's almost like mentally you're anticipating a slower corner than what it actually is. And that's why you're braking that little bit harder initially, and in fact all the way through the braking phase, except in this bleed off zone here. All the rest of it, you've got a little bit more pressure than me. Even at the end, even the trail brake is a little bit more than mine. And that's, I think, because you're going down to 2nd, you're like, I need to slow it down to an appropriate speed for 2nd gear. Whereas what we're going to do slightly differently is we're going to only go down to 3rd. And you know how I was saying come off the corner tight? We're not going to come off quite as tight. So if you look at the little GPS map here, I'll zoom in even more. You can see how my blue line is never going, it's never very wide, but yours is really tight here, and you're staying tight for longer. And that's probably the correct thing to do at the speed you were going. But if you carry a little bit more speed through there, you'll just naturally go a little bit wider.
Slow it out.
It still doesn't mean you're going to go all the way wide. I don't want you to wash really wide, just a little bit wider than you currently are. That's all. So that's what we'll do through there. We'll just enter in a higher gear, still keep it under control, just slightly less peak brake pressure and 1 gear higher than normal. And that will just hopefully drag up your minimum speed through there, and that'll at least we'll get half a second back. Rather, but at the moment there's a whole second going there. Then we move up to the hairpin. So let's have a look at our first hairpin. Again, your brake trace is excellent. Really good. So you're not really losing a great deal of time. What are we, 9/10 here? And by the time we exit, it's like maybe 2/10, 2-ish tenths. I think partly I'm going to go on your onboard here because I could see this happen when you did it live. Let's just zoom around to here. So this is going to look really obvious to you now, but it probably didn't feel obvious in the car. If I go down a little bit to here, and we'll just go in a little bit as well. So you peel away from the edge of the track quite early, if I remember well. So we're not all the way at the edge. Yeah. No, maybe it wasn't this lap. Let me just check the data again. You're slightly earlier than me. It's not massive, actually. On other laps, you peeled off earlier than that. So this one, it's not actually that bad. But I still think maybe we just turned in a fraction early, which meant you had to slow down a tiny bit more. That's not a massive deal. That's probably not where we're losing most of the time. Most of it is on the slight delay to the throttle here. You see, we're just having to wait that little bit longer to get on the gas. I'm using more steering angle than you. I don't know whether maybe that's slightly... I'm getting it rotated round in a shorter time, just because I'm turning further. Right in the middle, where you're going slowest, I'm just taking a few more liberties with how much angle I put in the steering. That gets it pivoted earlier, And that's why I can get on the gas early. Because if you look at our respective exit lines, I'm slightly tighter than you, and you see you're still in the middle actually as you approach the next corner. That's because you've just been a bit more kind to the car in that mid corner of the hairpin. You've just been a little bit smoother with the steering, whereas I've just kind of tweaked it a bit more, got it turned, and driven off the car a bit more. It's a very, very subtle difference, but it's this phase here. And you have a little bit of extra lock just past there, like now, but it's almost a little bit too late because we're almost coming off the corner. So we'll just try and be slightly tighter at that exact point there. I'm just trying to see on the speed. Where was it? Just there. Yeah, I mean, you're going slow enough. You're going slow enough for it, so I think that's doable. Essentially, we'll just try and get it pivoted even more in the middle. You're doing a very good job. You're not running very wide very early, but you can be even tighter on the final phase of that hairpin. And what that'll do is, as you then leave the corner, you won't end up like here. You'll be a little bit further to the right. You'll be slightly further right, positioned into this next left. Let's just jump back here again. Okay, so anyway, hairpin, pretty good. We can just perfect it a bit. It's these next couple where we start to lose a bit more time. So this is where we've got a bit more minimum speed gap. Partly, it's obvious because of the line on the way in. Because you didn't manage to get all the way over to the right, you had a harder time than taking the left. But I think we also maybe turned slightly late because you can see this gap to the inside here. We want to be on that curb. So whatever you need to do to get on that curb, which is probably, even on this line that you're on, where we could be a bit wider, even on this line, it's maybe just a slightly earlier turn to get to it. If I go on the onboard, let's see whether we can have a reference.
It feels like, because I'm not far enough right, that I need to slow down more in order to catch the apex.
Yeah, if you get further right, you're exactly correct. That will make your life much easier turning in there at this speed, rather than having to slow it down extra. But yeah, the car didn't really want to go over there. And also, on the exit, I think you probably remember when I showed you my onboard, we also want to aim to be out here. So if you use that curb and use more exit there, and get wider on the approach, obviously, to allow you to use that curb, that is going to gain you a chunk of time through there. Which is
problem I have with track familiarity there. I don't know. It doesn't.
You essentially, you almost don't have enough time to go right. You know, you come out of the hairpin, and naturally you'd normally flow all the way wide, and then you'd have a whole big straight to get to the right hand side. But because the next corner just arrives and it's downhill, it's quite steeply downhill. You've got to just get over to the right to sweep back. You've got to almost like force the car there a bit unnaturally early. Next corner though, I think you're pretty good. I think this next left on this lap, so we could definitely be further right on the approach. So if I go back here, we can kind of be out on this bit of asphalt here, but and we can definitely use a little bit more mid-corner curb. But on the data, it doesn't look terrible at all. You're matching me quite closely. So a little bit more space. If you give yourself more room, I think you'll be on top of my line there, a bit like you are through turn one. So these corners almost like flow into each other, don't they? The hairpin, if you get that right, that'll put you on the right line for this one. And then you'll naturally be wider out here. That'll give you a nicer line to here. You can just about see, I don't know if it's clear enough on Discord, you can just see how my blue line is a little bit wider on the approach there. Right, let's go into the final few corners. So let's go to this zone here. Oh, no, not there. Here. Okay, hairpin 1, hairpin 2. You're matching the technique very well. Now it's going to be just a case of perfecting it, because when you look at your brake trace, looks very similar to mine. Gears are exactly the same. Steering trace almost looks identical. And even the speed line is matching it pretty similarly. You just now need to maximize it. So we're going to brake even later. And let's give you exactly how much. You're starting to brake at 2622. I'm at 2630. So say 5 meters later on the brakes. It's not a lot. Slightly higher speed mid-corner, but not a lot, like 5k. And then similar for the next corner. We can just brake a little bit later. So you're braking at 2800. So it's 10 meters later for the next one, but you still need to get it slowed down for the middle and obviously then get on the gas smoothly. You're not doing those corners badly at all, so don't try and change them much. It's just creeping a little bit quicker, just a little bit later on the brakes. And then the final couple of corners, this will be quite interesting. So you are full throttle through there, so that's good. So that corner's fine, you're not losing a thing through there. Last corner, you're trying to go in too fast, on this lap at least. We know that because it all went wrong. So this might have been a bit of an outlier. It's partly because you got on the grass, so you actually probably couldn't slow it down enough because you touched the dirt here.
Yeah.
It wasn't grass, was it? It was actually gravel. But because you got on the gravel there, you then were almost like unable to brake where you normally would and slow it down. So that's probably why you went into there too fast. But as long as you know, you can just back it off a little bit earlier so your minimum speed comes over. I don't think that was typical. I think that was just that lap. So main areas to focus, just do turn 1 and 2 exactly how you just did it. That was great. Turn 3, 1 gear higher, and let it run a little bit wider on the exit. Not much, but just enough to carry that additional speed that you're going to carry with third gear.
Are you in turn 1? Are you going down to 4th?
I'm down to 3rd at turn 1.
And what was I?
You're 4th, but it's not losing you a lot. So Phil, by all means, try 3rd. It'll make getting on the gas harder because you'll need to be, correcting oversteer. In fact, if you look here, I had a moment of oversteer for sure. Because although I didn't go to opposite lock, I reduced my right-hand lock quite a lot to try and cope with it. So I think maybe potentially 3rd is faster if you totally maximise it, but just bear in mind you're going to need that throttle control on the exit. But you're doing it really well at the moment. So the big change is definitely turn 3, if we're calling that turn 3, and positioning on the mid to exit of the hairpin, which leads into the first 90 left, where you need to use more curb on both sides. Second 90 left is pretty good. You just need to give yourself more space to turn in. And then the final hairpins were just about perfecting them, like just edging a bit closer to the limit. But yeah, that's it. Actually not that much to worry about. It's just not all easy stuff. So let's go do some more.
Perfect. And this is the one I need to be tighter.
Yeah, it's just a very brief moment near the end of the corner where you can be slightly tighter, which will just give you a slightly easier run to the next turning point. And obviously on these laps, there's not a lot of point pushing the limit into these hairpins. But when you've got the temperature and you've got the sticky grip, just lean on the car a tiny bit more, like 5% more.
See if I can remember turn 1.
Just don't try to do it too fast because you've got no grip.
Oh, I went to 4th again.
The line looked good though.
And this is the one where you go to 3rd.
That's it. And you can get onto the power a little bit earlier. Just a little, as long as you're smooth, as long as you don't just stamp on it, as long as you like introduce it progressively, you can do that earlier than you did on that lap.
I still don't have grip. That blind turning is a little bit.
Yeah, for that penultimate corner, you can just turn slightly earlier than that, but you did it fine on the previous lap.
Oh, that one's where I should have stayed in third.
You'll notice a big delta difference if you stay in third and get on the gas early, I think, compared to this lap.
And this is the one I need to be tighter.
That's it, and then you can get on the gas and get over to the right early. Just don't be afraid to turn left early, even if you haven't made it all the way to the right-hand side. So even if you've still got a car width to the edge of the track, your focus still switches to using all the apex curb in the first of the 90-degree left. Cool. I think you can be even earlier on the gas next time.
Okay. Oh.
Okay, so some sections were definitely better. I think the second 90 left, we just tried to go in a bit too quick, that was all.
Nope.
Don't be afraid of that curb on the left. It almost looked like you turned away from it. like you didn't want to touch it. So even if you come in at a slightly shallow angle, you can still use that curb. It'll cut quite a lot off. It was a much better turn 1 than last time. Okay, so early on the gas, go for it. And start thinking about the exit of the hairpin already. I know we're not even there yet, but make sure as we leave it, we get over to the right-hand side, ready for the first 90 left. And really use the apex curb. Nice, that's it. Well done. We'll just maximise it more and more from this point on. That was good.
Oh. I did it again.
Well controlled though. I mean, up until that point, that looked like a really good lap. So let's do another couple. Yes, it was nearly your best, even with that pretty major issue at the end. Okay, let's do one more on this run.
Okay. Nope.
Okay, that's fine.
I did.
Yeah, that'll do.
Same thing.
That'll do. We'll leave it there. You got your best lap there anyway on that last one, so that's a good comparison one. So just same thing again. Just hop out of the cockpit, so we load that data up.
I don't have a good braking point for turn 1, and so I kind of looked to the left. I was carrying a lot of speed, and I looked to the left to see where I was.
Okay.
The lap before that, I did it just on feel with the apex. I didn't look to a braking point. I just kind of looked to the apex and judged it on feel. That time I thought, I'll try to find a braking point, and I looked for a braking point, and I was off.
So I don't really have one either. Looking at my video now, I go under the bridge, and I'm looking into the corner, and I just brake when it feels right, but it's well before this white line anyway. It's somewhere between the bridge and the white line, but it's actually not long after you pass beneath the bridge. It's like bridge, 0.2 of a second, and then brake, really. Right, let's get your data up. Let's have a look. There's definitely some big improvements on that run. Some things you were doing which were way better. So that's, I mean, you'd expect that because you're a bit more familiar with the track too. But let's add that here to this one. We'll make your new one green. Okay, so turn 1, much of a muchness. You didn't really gain or lose a lot. You actually tried to go in a bit too fast on your best lap, and then you lost a little bit of the apex. So you gained a little bit on the way in, lost a little bit of the apex, came off. You're very similar to me, to be honest. You're within 1,000th of a second of mine on the exit there. So turn 1 on a good lap is really good, and turn 2 again. Like you're essentially, I think you're actually maybe 100th up on me at that point. So turn 1 and 2 really good. what happened at turn 3, because this doesn't look like as much of a change as I expected. You are clearly getting on the power harder earlier. So you can see that here. Like, the green throttle trace is definitely earlier. But we're still maybe going in slightly too slow. Just a little bit too slow up to the apex. So you're like 15 kilometers an hour slower than you could be traveling at the apex. And your line is good. Your line is good, and your braking's all very, you're so accurate and progressive. Your braking, you did exactly what I asked you. You took the peak down a little bit, but the only difference is you're still braking quite a lot earlier. So you've got longer to slow it down, obviously, and then you have this additional little trail at the end just to make sure you're definitely going slow enough. So it's a combination of slightly too early on the brakes and slightly too long on the brakes. And that's what's making you a little slow at the apex. I still think this is one of our biggest time gains to find in this one corner. Okay. You went in the right direction, though, and you definitely came off tighter. So you came off less tight than your previous one, still slightly tighter than I am. But that's because you don't need to run as wide as me, because you're going 15k slower. So the reason it doesn't feel like you need to go wider is purely because you're right, you actually don't need to. So the thing we need to change is the minimum speed. Yeah, we just need to make the minimum speed slightly higher. And there's a very specific point that it looked like it was obvious on board. So if I go on your quickest one. Oh, why is it taking me back there? We want the start of the lap. Here we go. So it's this approach to the apex here. Here we've slowed it right down to 99. This is where we can be going quicker. So right here, this is fine. It's the fact we continue to slow it down here. And we actually... Am
I still on the brakes there? Can you see my brake trace?
You are, because I can see on here you are. The green line here, if I zoom in, you can see how I've finished at that point. Although I do have another little tiny extra nibble. That's because I'm going 10k quicker though. So at the speed you're going, I don't think you need it. So effectively you can just carry a little bit more speed through the apex. One thing though, if you look at the lines that you and I are taking, if I just try and zoom in even more on the on that particular corner, I'll just go here. If you look at the lines on the picture here, the red and the green line are quite wide here, and then you take a late apex here. So I think partly the reason you're slowing it down a bit more is because you're aiming to apex there, and I'm aiming to apex back where the tyre marks are, like there. So that's probably why you're slowing it down more, because you've gone in that little bit later. You need to like V it slightly more significantly than me, whereas I've gone in shallower and then it kind of just hooks around, and I didn't need to do the extra stop to turn it back to that apex. So maybe just go in a little bit shallower, a little bit earlier. I'll look on the onboard. So yeah, I'm looking here, like my eyes are on that bit of the curb because that's where I want my front wheels to end up. And you see, we deliberately go past it and make this later apex. So, two things: just raise the entry speed slightly, raise the apex speed slightly, and move the apex a few meters earlier. And those things combined should just guide you through there a bit quicker.
Okay.
So let's just look at the rest of the lap. Hairpin. So you've slowed your minimum speed in the hairpin down, but you've come off the corner quicker, so that's good. So I think that is a slight gain there. Then we've got our two 90-degree corners. So still the first one is the one... So you've gone in the right direction again. You're above your own, but there's still quite a big gap to the speed that I'm carrying into there. And it's almost all down to the line on the way in. Oh, so wow. I'm staying a gear higher. That's one thing I'm doing. So I'm staying in third and you're going down to second. But let's just have a look at exactly where you're turning in. So we got mostly over to the right. You can still go further, ideally. Yeah, I think that time it really was because we just weren't far enough right. But if we stay one gear higher and just send it in, just like launch it towards that curb, even though I know you can't see it very well, just try and cut it, even if it means you run a little bit wider here. Because you can see you've actually got space to play with. So you can afford to go in earlier, have a worse line, as in like a tighter line because you've turned in earlier, but you're going to do a shorter distance and come off wider anyway. I'll just show you mine on board. Now you've done it a bunch of times. Mine might be a bit more. It might be a bit more useful because you know what it looks like to you. So here's how that sequence looks like to me. So I'm a little bit further right. I'm not all the way over, but I am right. But it's a very deliberate turn to the left. It's a very deliberate forcing it towards that curb. Even though back here I can't see the curb, I'm already turning towards it because I know I'm going downhill. The front tyres are going to drop away and it's going to understeer. But if I go early enough, I'll make it. And that's...
And you're in third there?
Let's check. I'm in third. Yeah, so you're down to second and I'm in third.
Okay.
Let's look at your next one. Next corner. Next one, you went in a little bit. So this one almost went a bit too far. So you tried to go into the next one too fast and then suffered on the exit. So actually, there's quite an easy gain there if you just go in faster than you went last time, but slower than you went this time. It's like somewhere in the middle. Like that's purely what it is. Yeah, we just went in a little bit too fast, and then you had to come off slow. Hairpins, how do these go? Second one looks great. Second one's a big improvement, and actually, first one's a big improvement too. You did exactly the right thing. Lots of your time has come from here. Look how much more matched to me you are on the brakes. You're braking later, and you're getting it slowed down well. You're coming off the corner quicker as well. And then into the next one. Okay, we're still slightly slowing it early for the second hairpin, but at least now you're coming off the second hairpin fast. Whereas before you were slowing it early and getting a slower exit. Now your exit's pretty much matching me, so that's good. And then final couple of corners. Yeah, okay, last corner went to crap again, didn't it? I think the last one, there was quite a lot of time to find there by just not running off. I think if I remember correctly, did it all go slightly wrong there?
I think so. I think
it did.
That blind right, I didn't turn in early enough. I ended up far left, I think. So this blind right, I ended up farther left than I wanted.
Oh, actually...
No, actually...
Unless I'm looking at the wrong lap. Maybe it was the lap before we went wide there. But, yeah, I thought I've obviously got a false memory that you went a bit wide there. Yeah, no, it was actually fine. It was actually completely fine. So what does the data tell us then? If you didn't go off, why was it slow? I think you just were being very cautious. You were quite slow at the apex because before you were too fast at the apex. But you came off way better. Like you had a massive gain on the exit. So this one, again, then, final corner is just a case of going in a little bit quicker. You're just not braking as hard. You can see you've got quite a high brake pressure there. Yeah, just using the downforce slightly more. Just slightly more of a flow rather than like a stop in. You can just go like stop in. Just like blend them together a little bit more through there. But that wasn't bad. That wasn't bad at all. Should we do another run? You got time? As long as you got time. Let's do it.
Yep.
So, main things then, I'll just quickly check that data again, just so I can remember. Turn 1 and 2, great. Turn 3, we want to go earlier in, aim for an earlier apex, and carry more speed through the apex. We were 15k slow. Hairpin was fine, but make sure we get all the way to the right, ready for the next left. 1 gear higher, so third, not second, into the 90 left.
So do you stay in third from your exit because you're going through there in third?
So yeah, this is me. Yeah,
no,
so
you're
third.
Going through there in second. Are you going through the hairpin? In
hairpin second, then up to third, and then I stay in third.
You stay there
all the way through here until I upshift on the way to the next hairpin.
Okay.
So third all the way through those 290 lefts. Let's do it.
We'll see. You still hear me?
Yep, I'm still... Oh. Yep, sorry, I muted myself. Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, no worries. Okay. So you go through in third. Oops, I did it again.
All right, Brittany. That actually didn't look bad at all. I know it's cold tyres and it's first lap out of the pits, but your line into that right hander is pretty good. There's a very helpful tyre mark on the curb. I don't know whether I put it there.
Okay, over,
Yeah,
up.
that's more like it. And then use that curb. Even earlier turn in next time, but that was closer, considering you're on cold tyres. That's all right. Don't worry, damage is turned off, so the wheels will just reattach.
Okay. Okay, phew.
I always remember to turn damage off for these sessions now, because I don't want people to waste their tyre temperature. We're having to start again.
No grip. Too late.
It's okay. We'll just go slightly earlier next time. But you're getting there. You're definitely getting there. The main thing is getting the car to the right before you get there and not waiting too long to chuck it into the left.
See if I can do a little better job this time.
Nice effort. So no, we didn't hit the curb, but it was a good line. Apart from that, I think we want a little bit of brake turning into the second 90 left, because it looks like we're ending up at the apex a little bit too fast and going deep. Especially because you're going through the first one quicker now. Okay, great first corner. Good second corner as well. And just get on the gas early when you can out of here. It's good. Don't be afraid of the curb.
I fucked it up again.
Don't worry. As long as you know what you're aiming for. You will get there eventually. I'm just making some notes whilst you're recovering, so just take your time.
Yeah, I was trying to recover time is the problem, which you can't do. Too much.
Right, make sure we get this curb. I think it's because you're not braking. I think it looked to me like you just tried to send it in there without any trail brake. And I'm braking quite a lot to get the nose in. Otherwise, I think I would wash wide too. On the next lap, try like 10% or 15% brake pressure on your way in there, like a kind of like a trail on the way to that apex. And I reckon that'll help you get to that curb. Because on this lap, it just looked like the car didn't want to turn at all. I'm writing all this down in the notes. I'll show you how we get... I've got a new note system since the last time we did a session.
Okay. I don't know why I went wide there.
That's more like it. That's more like it. It allows you to get back on the power earlier. Same with that next one. So same with the second 90 left. It looks like you're just trying to go into the entry a little bit quick, so your exit then suffers. If you do a similar thing to what you did with the first 90, where you just lean on the brakes just to get the initial nose in segment done, then you can drive through the second phase on the throttle, and it'll be a bit more under control. You won't have as much horrible understeer. You'll be a bit more like in the driving seat for the mid corner.
Mm-hmm. A little better through there.
I mean, your last lap time was good considering there were still a couple of other mistakes, so really decent.
No.
That's all right. We're only focusing on these next two anyway, so remember the trail brake into both of them, because then you can get on the power early. If you have a teeny brake on the way in, you can get on the power a bit earlier on the exit. Nice. That was actually really, really decent, that second one. So you just need enough laps to perfect that technique without giving away too much speed. You obviously don't want to over-brake, but it looked pretty good on the second one at least. I'm still finishing some notes, so you keep going. Just slightly earlier next time. So that's fine. Second left now looks good. Just for the first one, just need to be slightly earlier with that trail brake and turn in. It's because it's downhill. That's why it's so unnatural feeling.
I went through that in third for some reason. I don't know why.
Probably because I was talking to you. That was pretty nice through the last corner.
Better.
Okay, let's do one more. I was going to say, that's your cue to go a bit wide at turn 1.
Shit.
Good effort. That's the best you've hit that apex. Well done. That was a great end to that lap.
Well, we got a little better.
Good job, man. So now you just need like a little break and some time without me staring at you doing it, without the pressure of having to do it really fast, you know, immediately. But
it'll help when I know the track a little bit better. I'm
Yeah.
getting to know it, but I'm still a little bit curious at like that double. Where are we? Like 5,
double
6,
left.
7.
yeah. So you know what you're aiming for at least. So what I've done here, if you can see my screen, is I've made some notes. So this is the new system. So in the past, I wrote things down on an Excel spreadsheet, and then it made it quite difficult to share with people, and I had different tabs for different drivers, but it was really for my own benefit. But I've got a new system here that I'm using on Garage 61, where you can actually, if you want to, go back and look at the notes yourself. So
I actually do go back and even like the videos that you upload.
Yeah.
I know you said one time that none of your drivers actually rewatch them. I actually do rewatch them.
Okay. Well, I've been recording this one too, and I've sorted out the audio, so you should hear everything without an echo. You should hear both of us talking. You should hear the car. So as long as everything is correct, it should be a watchable video too. Now I'm actually going to stop the recording right now.